Sir, please put on your microphone. Good evening, sir. Please put on your microphone.
Yes, my microphone is on.
No.
What's the problem?
Sirs, I am talking, not yours. Yours is on.
Okay. So, on behalf of the team management of Biodiversity Webinar Series 2, I, Pompey Ghosh and Professor. Yes, sir, I can hear you. Okay, sir. Webinar Series 2. I, Pompey Ghosh, Assistant Professor and head of the department, Botany, Shiva Bharati Mahavidyalaya, Kapgadi, Jharkhand, welcome our today's resource person, Professor D. Misra, and other dignitaries. Today's resource person will be introduced by our respected Professor Vidyanath Jha sir. After the lecture of our resource person, the discussion question answer session will be run by Professor Ghail Nivedita A. Madam. Then Dr. Debabrata Das will announce our upcoming programs. Valedictory session will be run by Professor Vidyanath Jha sir. Before entering the main program, I want to say a few words about the webinar series and our motto. Actually, we have started our journey since 12 September 2020, last year. We are two botany departments from Jharkhand district, West Bengal, from different colleges, namely Shiva Bharati Mahavidyalaya and Lalgarh Government College, in collaboration with the NGO, have started the program of webinar series. Each and every Saturday evening from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m., knowledgeable people from different fields, irrespective of their age and designation, gather here to exchange and gain knowledge and sometimes views also. All of us are doing this job voluntarily. So far, we have been conducted 30 lectures for Biodiversity Series 1, 10 lectures for Environment and Development Series 1, then one 3-day long national level conference, and now Biodiversity Series 2 lectures and Environment and Development Series 2 lectures are going alternately on each and every Saturday evening. Participants are from all over India. Thanks to Google for knitting all of us in a single thread in this pandemic situation. Me and Dr. Das are not alone, but we have so many scholar personalities with us. And today we have with us Professor Misra, who is versatile in the field of plant science research, Dr. Vidyanath Jha from LN Mithila University, Darbhanga, Bihar, who has botany background and retired principal, and Professor Ghail Nivedita A from Department of Botany, Abhasaheb Gadware College, Pune, as today's organizing member to run the program successfully. So without wasting time, we have to enter into our main program. So respected Vidyanath Jha sir, I am requesting you sir to welcome and introduce our today's respected research person, Professor D. Misra sir. It's over to you sir.
Thank you, Dr. Pompey Ghosh ji. Welcome everybody, Dr. Ghosh, Dr. Das, and others in the audience who have gathered over here. This is the 6th lecture of the second series of biodiversity webinar organized by the Department of Botany, Lalgarh Government College, and Department of Botany of Shiva Bharati Mahavidyalaya, Jharkhand, West Bengal. Our distinguished lecturer today is Dr. D. Misra, that is Devendranath Misra, who is presently the Pro Vice Chancellor of BAH Solapur University, Punyashlok Ahilyabai Holkar Solapur University, based at Solapur, Maharashtra state. He is there since March 2020. Dr. Mishra is a multifaceted personality in both academic life as well as in administrative life, and also a humane person, full of the properties of, full of the virtues of head and heart. He has been, or he has been director of the SRGM University Latur Sub-Center, served there for 10 years, starting from November 2010 to March 2020. He has been registrar of Kolhapur University, also acting registrar of RTMN University, Rashtra Sant Pakodaji Maharaj Nagpur University, a very old university that earned much repute in our country. He has been controller of exams, RTM University, Nagpur, and also head of the Department of Botany and Biotechnology, Abeda Inamdar Senior College, SPP University, Pune. That is Savitribai Pune University. Pune University was named after her. She has been pioneer in the field of higher education, and she earned a name for herself, and the university has now been named after her. So we are very proud to find that you are associated, or you have been associated with that university. Dr. Mishra has been a member of statutory bodies, including having been Chancellor's nominee in the selection committee for the appointment of professors, RTM Nagpur University, then member of the Senate, Academic Council, Board of PG Education in colleges, member of NAC, AQAC, SRTM University Nanded, then life member of International Science Community Association 2017 onwards, then life member of Odisha Botanical Society, and he is a widely traveled person. For his postdoctoral study, he was there at Leiden University in the International Institute of Asian Studies under the aegis of the Royal Academy of Arts and Science, Gonda Fellowship 2006 in the Netherlands. He has also been at University of Paris, Sorbonne, and worked on medicinal plants for treatment of fever as per Ayurvedic texts during March 2015. International Ayurvedic Congress, Meru, again in the Netherlands. Then his point of interest is essentiality and effect of using taxonomically correct species to enhance Ayurvedic drug potential during 2015. Then again at International Institute for Asian Studies at Leiden University, where he delivered lecture on Jwar Chikitsa in Sanskrit medical treatises. Then again at Institute of Oriental and African Studies, University of London, on bioevolution and transgenic characters in Hindu mythology. So all this shows the varied interest that he has in both modern day botany as well as in the botany in synthesis with our ancient knowledge that was there, rich knowledge that is being deciphered these days. When we are looking into with much more interest in our ancient treatise, ancient knowledge system. Dr. Mishra has visited a number of countries, including UK, France, Germany, Netherlands, Belgium, Switzerland, Italy, Greece, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, Austria, Czech Republic, Slovakia, Bhutan, and he has authored 43 research articles, 27 full texts which have been published in peer-reviewed journals, and manuscripts of 2 books are also under preparation. He is a recognized guide for supervising MPhil and PhD degrees in botany and biotechnology in SRTM University Nanded and Utkal University, Odisha. He has the honor of addressing the first convocation address in D.Y. Patil University School of Engineering, Pune, in February 2017. And He has handled a number of research projects and has worked in the field of popularization of science, and he has been associated with NCC, NSS, and he is a sergeant uh, of NCC, and he has a man of versatile uh, properties, versatile virtues. He is a best drama actor, excellent debater, and has received several awards. A man of philanthropic taste, human, and has been involved in a number of human activities, including uh, saving the lives from lightning effect awareness campaign that he launched during Latur, and made people safe from the attack of lightning. So we find that he is Professor Mishra, who is at present the Vice Chancellor of the University in Maharashtra State, a man of versatile activities, versatile virtues, having wide and diverse interest in the fields related with academics, related with research, related with administration, related with human activities. So we are glad that we have such a person for our webinar today as distinguished invited guest. We have been organizing our the two colleges in collaboration with an NGO have been organizing this event for about more than a year now, and all this is being done on a voluntary basis. People do not have to pay anything for this. The participants as well as the resource persons, all of them, they are doing it on voluntary basis, and this is a very pious virtue that we are undertaking such a glorious exercise of making people, present-day people, modern recent-day students, as well as scholars of varied hues. All of them, they are coming to this platform and are deriving the benefits out of this venture, out of this exercise, pious, scholarly exercise. So with this, I conclude the introduction of the honored guest. Thank you.
So, sir, please start your PPT.
Okay. Is it visible now to everybody, the PPT?
Yes, it is visible.
Okay. Very good evening to all of you, the participants for this webinar organized, and I'm very happy to be with all of you in this evening for a very nice, innovative way of reaching to our budding scientists, the plant lovers, and the environment protection groups, and so on. It's a privilege for me to be invited to deliver a small deliberation and to enlighten what are the future possibilities and the interests in research so far as plant sciences are concerned. I have practically designed the slides with some themes, some objectives, and some stories behind it, and some science in it, and the future possible research in it. Let me say, start with that puspam vichinmita mulachedam ma karayat. It was been long before our traditional seers or munis or rishis, they have said this statement that you enjoy beauty of flower, you enjoy beauty of life within the flower, you enjoy the plant's fruits, its gifts to humankind or to the entire living world in that sense, even to the non-living world. But don't try to uproot it. Don't try to destroy its moolam. Mulachedam makare. But unfortunately, we have reached to a stage, maybe in the last 200 years, where we only are responsible in the name of development, in the name of understanding or creating the new world, reach to a stage where we all are concerned today that whether we are able to get the free oxygen, and especially after this pandemic COVID-19, the cost of the oxygen cylinder is understood to those patients or the relatives of those patients who were critical, and we could lose them in absence of oxygen cylinders. Therefore, it has become a pertinent question to everybody's mind that where we are leading towards. Is this world without care towards the plants? Can we survive? But before that, to the new generation students, maybe all our old generation people like me and the principal sir who explained about my biodata a little bit, we have come through some conventional way of learning. We had been somehow influenced by the sanskar. We were determined to do nothing harm to the nature, and we were limited with our uses of the modern gadgets, and we are still able to live the healthy and good life. However, the young generation children at the present time are still understanding about simple plants, fruits, vegetables, grains, and other things from the videos or from the pictures in their books. And if they are left in the field, if they are ever taken to or next to their door, even if there are some fruit plants, vegetable plants, they are unable to understand it. Therefore, it is necessary to bring into the knowledge of everybody how charming the plant science is, how beautiful the plants are around us. It's not only the higher plants, it's also what we don't see sometimes, what we don't observe them, whose number is much more in quantity than the plants we see as the higher plants around us. However, since higher plants we could able to observe, we could see the changes, we could enjoy the beauty through that, it is better to concentrate on the higher plants at the beginning. Charms is the power or quality of delighting, attracting or fascinating others. The small children I have kept in the photograph, in the picture, they depict exactly what I mean. If they observe certain things, they are fascinated towards that, they are attracted towards that, and they feel delighted to observe it. They feel more happy when they understand the phenomenon in it, when they understand the process in it. And that inquisitiveness has to be revived. Then only we can understand the charms of plant science. Plant science doesn't mean just to understand what in another word today we define as botany. It's a synonym word, but it doesn't cover many other aspects what plant science covers. Moreover, we have delinked ourselves, or we have compartmentalized ourselves with the different groups of plant science, like agricultural science is different, forest science is different, and horticulture is different. So many things, all of you are aware about it. And botany is just left with some fundamental study related to lower plants, higher plants, with physiology, and little biochemistry and genetics. Probably, now time has come, we have to again merge all those disciplines in order to have a holistic knowledge and to understand the charms of plant science together. It is necessary for our elders or seniors in the research field, in the guidance field, in the teaching field, and the present generation to come together and create a new beginning. Why I said all this? Because at the outset I have said this earth, which has come from millions years, human race came as the last development or evolution. Even the plant science evolution we all know, the flowering plants what we see is the last evolutionary landmark in front of us. But we are somehow taking our superlative power to dominate others and disturb the whole harmony, balance. And because of these activities in the last 100 to 200 years, we now started rethinking with the help of scientific summits, conferences, that we have to make sustainable development. We have to balance our ecology and ecosystems. We are now coming to understand the importance of even the minute plants, what we don't see. It's not only the fruit plants or grain plants. We have a lot of commitments now coming up before it could end. And as we know, we have created some products from the plants and we have made it into irreversible in nature. It cannot be degraded. It cannot return to the nature from where it was been created. That's the tragedy with us now. Initially, I want to say whatever we see around us, from color to the structure and to the response of environment, all we know are linked to plants. There is nothing that can be imagined, because even if we know physically from physical science that sun distributes 7 colors, or the rays coming from sun contain 7 colors, we don't see it. But we understand the colors, the combination of colors, the permutation and combinations of different colors, which may be developed from those 7 colors, or some colors beyond, some colors before, from the plants around us. When you see the plants and the variations, the color variations, the structure variations, and the response of the plants to the environment is understood at ease. That's why I showed the children who are understanding nature, who are understanding color, who are understanding structure, and it is easy because man itself has somehow a fear towards animals. Therefore, before making things to understand with the help of animals, plants are easy to make the children to understand the charms of plant science. All of us know nature is synonymous with plants. Perhaps there could not be any writings, poetry or literature where nature is defined or written differently than expressing the beauty of the plants or the combination of plants and the non-living world or the inanimate world like sky, the earth or the mountains. As I know, I have given another picture to say life on this earth is possible where only plants exist. Where there are no plants, we don't find any life in that place, in that condition, in that environment. So indirectly I want to prove, to understand plant science, the charms of plant science, indirectly we have to understand our own life on this earth. We cannot sustain one day, 1 minute without the contribution of plants, without the non-stoppable and all forgiven in every respect plants provide us. They are all parts providing us the oxygen, harvesting carbon dioxide, providing us food, and we all are totally dependent. I am saying totally dependent. That is coming from the plants. Therefore, our life on this earth, not human beings, but all living beings, all living creatures on this earth are nothing but the indirect gift of plants on this earth. We are still researching, we are still trying our level best to understand whether life exists in other planets. The day we will recognize that there is a plant existing, a form of plant is found, whether it is in microscopic form or in the gigantic form, we will be sure that there must be some animals or there must be some other living organisms. The day may come after our progress in space research further. Now all living processes, all the life processes from birth to death are effectively understood physically, biochemically, and from molecular characteristics at ease by looking at plants. That's very interesting. I'll also unfold it slowly. When the small children or even the...
Sir,
Yes,
sir, are you presenting slides?
there is a slide already on the screen.
Oh, no slides are here. Only Nivedita Ghale ma'am slide. That's why participants are asking slide is not working.
This is the slide which I have shared with Nivedita. She has put it in the...
Oh, acha, okay, sir, continue.
Hello, sir. Das sir. Hello, Das sir.
Hello,
Actually,
only one slide.
No, there are
Then
many
he will
slides.
tell
It will
me,
come
I
slowly.
will go to the next slide.
Okay. Because participants are asking, that's why I'm
No.
No.
Yes, I am explaining. It is not...
He is
Okay.
explaining. After he will
I
tell
am
me
covering-
go to the next slide, I will go to the next slide. Okay?
Okay, sir, okay, thank you.
See, it's not a scientific delivery with mechanisms and the drawings and diagrams. This is a theme one has to understand, and each photograph has its theme. Each photograph is linked to its answers. And other class slides, I will only show some photographs and I will speak. Okay? Now coming to what I was saying, that even a small child or an adult man, all will be sensitized themselves when they touch a touch me not plant. By looking at it, how much sensitivity a plant has, how much plant responds to the external stimuli, how much its internal arrangements responds to its neurological, whether there is a neurological order inside the plant, we have to rethink, rediscover. That will be understood. So it is not only the physical, it is biochemical, and moreover, to do this, it has its genetical and molecular characteristics. All of us have already observed it in our lifetime. I don't know the present generation children whether they have ever seen the touch me not plant and its beauty, or otherwise one can see how the leguminous big trees also, their leaflets fold in the evening when the sun sets, as if it is another respect to the sunset, and it opens, unfolds again in the sunrise time. This beauty is understood. Similarly, as I said, the life process, we see flowering comes, we see fruits are made, we see the color changes, we see the orientation of the flower, like sunflower, one should see the orientation along with the sun's direction it orients. Every part of our life processes, what we regularly observe. Through plants, it becomes easy. If the children are observing anything in life, they must learn it from plants. Plants are the most responsive things on this earth out of all the creatures that have been created. Of course, we know there are three worlds very clear to us. Some are imaginary worlds, but even in imaginary world, we cannot draw anything, whatever we have not seen sometimes or in our dreams. Those things can be reflected later on into our pictures, into our drawings, into our correlations. So plants reflect everything that we understand as living process. The most important things of plant science, I understand, the language of communication between plants and between plants and environment, between plants and external stimuli, and within the self. It is very interesting, very rarely understood. Recently, I have seen one video of some scientists or experimenting people the leaves with its waving nature create some music. It can be recorded. They started recording different such stimulus oriented or stimulus forced changes in the waves within the plant leaves. And finally, for different plants at a different time period, maybe morning, afternoon, evening and night, they could synthesize all those things and accumulate all those wave responses recorded into beautiful musics. So that indicates the communication, as I said, is very interesting. And we must salute what Sir Jagdish Chandra Bose had already said long before. It was only our experiments are still to be verified. That how he described in Bangla word called as a spandan. Whether there is a heartbeat effect in plants from its birth till to the death, as we have, once it has been created a heart, it doesn't stop till the death. And it forcefully does the work what is needed for the survivability of the body. It forces the blood to reach to the every nook and corner cells and continue the activities in such a way that it develops its own mechanism for the heartbeat, for the pumping, the power required. All these things we understand from heartbeats. It is yet to be discovered, because my point was future interest to do research. I will start from here itself. As I showed, one photograph showing why a bee is attracted towards a flower. What that communication between the bee and the flower? Is the flower sending some message other than the scent, other than bursting some pollen grains, other than secreting some nectar? There must be some other communication. And when it does it, it is exactly like a human being communicating. As we understand from human being, we understand from other animals. How do they communicate? They communicate in different ways. Sometimes it is with verbal language, sometimes it is in mime actions, sometimes in physical reactions, sometimes in written form of words, and so on. It is similarly plants also communicate not only to the external stimuli, they have the relationship, and that is very specific, as we understand. That for the own sake, it is all so much controlled. Now I will come at the end. Who controlled it? Who developed it? How has been developed? Is the genetical factor only responsible to develop all this? Can one gene, one enzyme hypothesis will be applicable to all the phenomena? Can there be other way, other things involved? Our future research is dependent on that. The more we will do, the communication part of plant, how do these plants communicate? Not only between environment and other their pollinating agents, it is also between the community of plants. For example, if you look at the crop plants, they all flower overnight. Whether one plant has grown to that height or not, whether the nutrition is equal to all plants or not, but you find all the plants flower at one time, mature at one time. It is not only one type of crop together, many plants. When you go to the forests, you will see another beauty, that all plants in the forest have seasonal effect. It is irrespective of their names, their families, their types, whether they are herbs, shrubs, trees and other things. That beauty only can be understood when you visit such areas. So that's a communication between their groups, their communities. And as I said, with environment and to the external stimuli, it communicates. Like we also, when we see some danger, we make alert to our fellow participants with us. It is also in animal system, all of you have seen, if there is a danger or any response to that sense, it is communicated in the languages. Where plants communicate, how do they communicate, what is the method of communication, which wave is communicating, whether hormone is responsible for it, or is there anything else beyond it, is the future interest to do research. I'll go to the next slide to show you some more aspects of our charms of plant science and the interest of future research in plant science. Here, again, I would like to bring to you, because as I said from the beginning, I will make you to understand more of the highest evolved plants, that's angiosperms around us. All of us know, we have studied some part of it. We may be thinking that that's complete. Why do flowers come in the night, open in night, and some flowers open in day? Is it only the genetical factor? Is it only the evolutionary factor? Is it only the environmental factor? What is inside? Okay, all of us have studied little bit of phytochromes. We have given some thoughts about it, but the phenomenon has remained there for last so many decades, saying that phytochrome is converted from one form to another in this quantity to that quantity and so on, so that it changes. It's like pH changes in the titration effect, and then things change. How practical it is, how quantitatively it is, how quality changes in it, how the pigmentation in the color petals occur in it, what is the role of the rays of light, and if it is broken, if we change, if we altered, what happens, and why fragrance. We have just given one solution to it, that to attract the insects for pollinations, some insects or some birds or some animals, they are attracted towards the fragrance also, like the colors. These two factors only known to us. Is this the limit for flowering of the plants in the night and in the day? And moreover, all of us know that 15 days we have some paksha called as Purnima Paksha or Amavasya Paksha. New moon 15 days, full moon 15 days. What is the role of that? And how is it been harvested? Is there any transponder or the antenna or the disc? Normally we understand how we accept the waves, receive the waves. Where are those things in the plants? Is it in every cell or it's only part that where there are leaves? But there are so many plants which do not have leaves. There are so many plants which are not also green in color. And even if it is green in color or it has the possibility, which particular pigment or protein or structure, where does it work? And how that message is translated for the flowering purposes. The message is very important. The message is communicated in such a way that it makes a relationship again with the environment. It's not only that. If the seasons are constant, unfortunately we are not observing the 6 seasons. If the seasons are constant, then all over the world the same plant flowers at the same time everywhere. But why do they differ also in altitude, in latitude and in longitude? Also it differs with the soil type, with so many things. Those facts I will come little later. But first let us understand this beauty of plant science, the charms in the flowering part. We understand that plants also record the time period of the sunlight days and the night periods. We call short day plant, long day plant. It is later on I would like to come back. But all those things, certain times imaginary. I add here, while Mendel's law was discovered or it was been postulated, we had never thought that there will be neo-Mendelism. When Watson and Crick made the DNA double helix coiled in a particular angle, that it is a two-stranded helix, we believed, even if none of us could able to see it till now. But today a mathematics professor is saying DNA cannot be double-stranded. It has to be triple-stranded. Our entire structure of molecular biology, genetic engineering, our understanding are still with it. But the day it will change, yes, we will go to the new ones, new forms. We have to newly interpret many things. Like Dalton had said, atom is indivisible. We followed it for 100 years. Later on we can understand, we now has come up to alpha ray, beta ray, gamma rays, positron, photons, so much of things. And also we are characterizing it. Also we are observing its phenomenal effects. Similarly, the flowering part, the vernalization part, is also to be understood in its deeper sense. It's not just physiological process. It is not just the biological phenomena. We have still not understood anything its molecular aspects, the genetical aspects. Of course, we have gone more deep in understanding our opening of our gene characteristics. We have mapped the genes. Arabidopsis was the best example that is understood. But the future is still open to correlate things because we know the phenomenon as I am keeping in front of you is very beautiful to just see, very difficult to understand. The spectacular color displayed by plants the pigments of photosynthesis are all we have understood from the two-dimensional structure on the blackboard. How it happens. We are unable to predict the phenotypic characteristics, as I said, are shown all of you, those photographs. The phenotypic characteristics from the genotypes. It's not predictable. It has not yet been done. It's very few recorded things. Therefore, the field is still open. I'll come to little explanation here how beautiful the plant science is. Kelvin started thinking how the carbon dioxide is assimilated in plants. He experimented, or his group experimented, and said with one group of plants that yes, carbon dioxide is observed by the plants in the dark part of the phenomenon. I'll come to that. And it produces a 3-carbon compound, PGA. And that cycle 3 carbon cycle was become our understanding about photosynthesis in the dark reaction phase. Kelvin's group got Nobel Prize. Second group came. They took Kelvin's experimental design, but they experimented with another group of plants. Fantastically, they found no, there can be another possibility, that carbon dioxide, when it is accepted, is synthesized into a C4 carbon compound. Another Nobel Prize to that group, Hatch and Slack. Third group came. They also experimented in the same manner, but with cacti. The interesting part of all this, they said plants behave very differently. In the daytime, it becomes C3, but in the night time, it becomes C4. Third Nobel Prize. I wanted to say one phenomenon, one process, one understanding, still incomplete, 3 Nobel Prizes. Now the fourth group has come. They are saying, oh, nothing like this. There are many intermediates in between. They have to be trapped. And once that will be understood, perhaps we will have the 4th Nobel Prize in photosynthesis. There is no other branch of science on a particular process has got 3 Nobel Prizes. This is rare. This is the uniqueness of plant science, because it is easy to deal with. We can easily experiment. We can easily find the solutions, the answers, or the happenings, till we understand the mechanism with the available scientific knowledge, technological developments, and the chemicals, whatever it is. Therefore, I have showed that for the outside, we feel chlorophylls and chlorophylls, and we have linked photosynthesis with chlorophylls. But within every plant part, in the shoot, there are so many color pigments. They have their characteristic appearance if we separate them. And there are also characteristic functions. We have learnt little about it. Why? Because there are so many plants which do not have all these also. But they perform the phenomenon of photosynthesis. We are still finding also new things. The unicellular plants. Chloroplast is not the only design. We also said that is a laminar structure where chlorophyll traps. Okay, the jet scheme, the Hill reaction, we all have understood. But that's also in 2-dimensional structure, as if we feel that electron, like a football, it's jumped from its lower energy level to higher energy level, then it dissipates from its activated condition to ground level. All this we understand. And then we are also in between, we learn that there is phosphorylations, cyclic or non-cyclic. And at the end, these colors have been produced in combination, in permutation and combination. But outside world, it looks very beautiful. And inside world also is more beautiful in its organization. Because the light energy that participates in these processes for the survivability of the plant as well as for the rest of the living world is so coordinated that the phenomenon, the accessory pigments, they contribute to transfer that energy so efficiently that there is very little energy loss. We are unable to make our energy loss protected from the electricity when we are dragging the wires. But plants harvest so much of energy and without losing heat or without losing that energy into another form, they transfer. And the receiver is also having some power to receive all this energy even at a time. Of course, we all imagine certain things in advance, we design it, and we try to verify in an animated way, and if it is working, it will be very nice. But today, with our in silico studies, many things we could able to predict, we could able to give. I'll come to that part last after some time, probably. I don't know how much time is allotted to me. Is it 1 hour or more? Can anybody say, organizers? Hello? Any organizer can say how much time I can talk?
Sir, continue. Up to
How much
8:30.
Up to 7:30?
8:30. 8:30.
Okay, quite good time. So much of time, right? So, as I said, there are lot of parts which are still to be understood in deep sense. Our knowledge is still limited. Our instruments are still limited. Our technological know-how is still limited. There is unlimited part to the earth. There is unlimited things with the plants that we see. It is only to capture, imagine and redo the things, restudy the things. Research is nothing but search again. What has been searched by God, what has been searched by for the millions of years, that is accumulated, we have to revisit it. We have to research it. I would come to another phenomenon which is very interesting to me. It has always attracted me to understand how the growth of the plants that we see also from minutes to hours, and it is very interesting. And within that also, I have seen the last photograph, one plant becoming different than rest. Of course, we have given a name called as heterosis phenomenon. That's fine. To understand all this, how plants grow with a limited time to such a large extent. Here there are cell divisions, cell organizations, then the designs, the adjustment of cells, then the cells will remain in an intact form, the cells will be converted into tissues, tissues into organs. All are, if you look in a very small point of view, small scale, it is as if they are all coded and compacted into a disk which opens up and gives the reading slowly when it is unfolded. But to be unfolded, like in computer, we understand, because human being has created the computer, probably we have taken this particular phenomenon of the plants by observing ourselves into the computer mind. that you can unfold the things that is stored at each time by giving an order, by communicating to that file, to that folder. And whatever inside that folder, it will come up, it will prop up in front of you on the screen. And how you deal with it, that depends on your objectives. Similarly, what I depicted these pictures here is exactly like that. What a beautiful expression by plants. That's why the charms of plant science is unimaginable. It has tremendous growth and it has a large future prospects or perspectives over all other branches of science. I wanted to show you those photographs which are really making us to understand the charms of plant science. And within that, it also creates our inquisitiveness to go and understand what dictates or directs. Many times we understand that plants move towards the sun before germination or during the time of germination because sunlight is essential. And in dark also they grow. They grow faster, but they grow. Whether they survive or not, I don't know. But we have millions of plants which survive without light for years together. This is contradictory to our own statements. If you go to caves, if you go deep into the seas, if you find in the crevices where sunlight hardly reaches, but the effect of sunlight may be one of the causes. But it doesn't make them to grow so fast as we see from a seed to a plant, to a seedling. Therefore, a lot of parts, whether physiology, whether genetics, but all are linked to finally morphology. Morphology is therefore the new research avenue. If you look at, I'll explain in another way, the geometry and the topology of leaves, the flowers, the roots, the shoots, the arrangements of these parts have fascinated plant biologists as well as mathematicians alike. Don't just consider that this is happening randomly. No. If you observe it critically, carefully, as like a mathematics, we have so many things can be compactedly said. As we have in mathematics, that so many things can be calculated in different formulae, and there are so many intersections in geometry, and that can form some structures. Similarly, the morphology or the phenotypic characters is expression of the genetic directions. Now here the question comes, we have all understood that the genes are arranged in typical fashion in order, or to convert it into a protein which will already to be delivered at the right place, in the right time, for the right phenomenon to happen. It's all in theoretical knowledge absolutely good. But practically how it happens, what it does, where it really functions, how the stimuli is accepted in what sense, are still to be opened up. Next slide, madam. Now again, some other parts I want to bring so that the charms of plant science will be more clear to you. We find not the same process in any of the animal systems, in all other living creatures. Only in plants, we find these variations. The variations is so much that the minute things to the gigantic things, we see each plant is characterized to store its own food for a particular purpose or a particular way. Why it is so unique Every plant is so unique. It doesn't copy to others. Which is not the same system in the entire microorganism system or in other living beings except plants. I have shown the photographs where you find the underground parts are equally responsible in some plants to store the food, in some plants the fruits, in some plants the leaves, in some plants the flowers, in some other plants it's other parts. Very interesting. We tried. The human being is always in nature to copy things, mix things. I'll come later on a little bit about that. Because we are gaining our knowledge, our understanding of how to modify plant morphology through molecular biology and breeding programs, aided with mathematical perspectives. It is critical to improve for the need of the improvement in our agriculture and to maintain our ecosystem, the balance of our ecosystem. It's vital. These modelings, a future, as I said just now, it's a future with our natural resources. If we know these models, if we can understand these models, believe me, the future will be very beautiful. It may be the future of green infrastructure, the future of transparent plants, the future of phytobiome in plant store. This will be the future buzzwords or statements. But we have little knowledge of all these from mathematical, from genetical, from genotype to phenotype predictions. And the cause of it is mostly given that it's for its own protection, it's for its own food reutilization, it's for its own attraction of insects or pollinating agents. That's all fine. But at the same time, it has so much storage of knowledge to be decoded, to be opened up for the future research to be done. We only know the storage part contains this chemical or this particular phytochemical or this acid or this compound, this color, and we also know the utility of those. Because of this, probably with trial and error, we developed a science how to take care of human and animals and their ailments and diseases through this use of phytocompounds that is stored. Plant and man have not evolved at the same time. Then for whom plants have stored so much of things? For what requirements they have stored? Because we know that many of the plants are seasonal, ephemerals. They have hardly 2 to 3 months of lifespan, or annuals, or biennials. And when do they want to use it? What was the purpose of saving these? Was it to feed others, other organisms? Was there any communication or direction given by some superpower to plants that you store it, someone else will use it? We eat all the fruits, how enjoyable it is. When you eat date palms or you eat peru or guava, whatever it is. And you find all of it has different tastes, different vitamins, different nutrients, different phyto substances in it. But at the same time, our understanding, especially I will say those who love plant science, have to go deep into it, have to understand. And it is no more just a compartmentalized subject knowledge. It has to be integrated from different science. As I said, I have already opened up that mathematical calculations are very important for the future designs. If I understand that plants can be more stronger as pillars if it remains in a life form, and we can make a roof slab also, it will remain for a long time. We know that the middle part, if made into a tunnel, still the plant will survive with equal strength, like we know the Sequoia gigantea in Amazon forest area. So similarly, why these storages? What was the need? Was it directed by the genotype, genetic information? Was it access to the plants for its storage? Was there no other options to store it at other parts? Why is it been, and even in the fruits also we know that every fruit is not same. If one is a thalamus, one is a pedicel, one is a petal, another is its ovary. So many parts are involved to produce a fruit, and uniquely they produce the fruits by modifying all these parts. Plants its own requirement is very beautiful. We only, the human beings, are classified ourselves, and to some extent some animals we classified as vegetarian and non-vegetarian. Why this phenomenon of non-vegetarianism or carnivorous nature has come to the plants? We also gave some reasons. Those are philosophical reasons, those are narrative reasons. Some science is definitely involved in it. But when we change all these, the plants do not adapt. Very interesting. I have not talked all these things with adaptation. Is there any gene that has been predicted or been identified for the phenomenon of adaptation, plant adaptation, or its parts adaptation, not only whole plant, even parts, organs adaptation? How is it been directed? Still to be understood. How specific these carnivorous plants for the flies? They don't eat all the flies, all types of insects or spiders. Each plant has its specific requirements. Is it really required for the plants? For what purpose? Which nutrient are derived from it so that it will be required for its growth and development? And in absence of that particular nutrient, the growth and development will be arrested. It will not further act. Not been studied. As we know that if one molecule of boron is not available during inflorescence time, the flowers may not become fertile. We have understood that. But we have not understood exact role. We simply say it has a role. How inflorescence time, which particular enzyme, which particular mechanism requires boron, and we only know in absence it happens or in presence it happens. But we don't have a stochastic mechanism to exactly observe. I will come little later to this phenomenon again, where we are leading towards. Because time is constrained, let me go to the next slide. Nivedita, can you change the slide? Okay. Probably she's a little busy someone. Hello? I have few things to say. Oh,
slide is not going ahead.
Yeah. Next slide. Yes, it has
Yes.
come.
Yes,
It has
yes.
come.
Yes.
Yes,
It has come. Yes.
Now this is summarizing one more slide, maybe there one or two. I again wanted to say, I never found that plants do require any defense mechanism from animals. However, the defense mechanism in the form of spines, thorns, hirsutum, and other ways, even colors, then you will find the poisonous fruits, and if in bamboo you find so polished, so hard that nothing can affect it. I have given so many examples of this defense mechanism in plants. We simply realize that the more important is like our understanding from the animal system, that the child is to be cared. So also the plants require for its flowers or its total body structure to be cared, not to be disturbed, not to be harmed, not to be taken away. So who said that plants do not have that brain, that understanding? It has. And the typicalness, again, the mathematical calculation, you will never find randomly arranged thorns or spines or the structure. No, it is very, very mathematically calculated. You will always observe this mathematical calculation is stored. Now my link, which gene has stored all these mathematical calculation for what? It is changing with time and in adaptation, does it change? No. If other possibilities of adaptation changes are seen in plants, but so far as defense mechanism is concerned, it doesn't. We don't find a fruit which is bitter in taste or poisonous can become changed if it changes the soil type to another place, if it changes its altitude. It has not been observed. The phenomena are still to be understood. And the relationship between this defense mechanism to its holistic living of the plants. Was it necessary? Or it is a byproduct? Or it is a curse? Or it is a defective phenomenon? In what reason? What requirement? And the plants which do not have, they produce very good things. Let's take the example of mango plant. It produces the kings of the fruits. So beautiful. No defense mechanism. And the plants which have more defense mechanism, perhaps, except rose. The rest of the plants are never attracting the eyes of others. And by mistake, if somebody goes, touches, gets the effect. So this link, it's not just a philosophical thought I am presenting before you. It is the future prospects I am opening through the charms in plant science. It's our good participants, those who would like to take any clue out of it, they can do. Who will do? Yah kriyavan sa panditah. One who will do, he will be only wise. So I have given the clues. Take it up. But what you have to do? Sa vidyaya vimuktaye. Study that knowledge. Study that which can reach you to the destination, which can make you to liberate from the untold stories, which will make you to understand the phenomenon or the happenings very beautifully. That's the charms of plant science. I invite, invoke, and I inspire my fellow participants here to look at all these angles I am opening before you in the name of charms of plant science, but the possibilities of future research. Future research is not just meant for doing tissue culture, multiplying plants in clonal propagation, making clonal variation, and observing one type of things, eating one type of things, or making things little artificially sometimes. But all of you are aware that tissue culture raised clonal group of plants do not adapt to multiple situations. My last slide will show it, what is needed now, the beautiful part. Anyhow, no, madam, please, before this. Madam, before this, yeah. We have observed in nature, no one has tried to teach plants that you multiply like this and that. We artificially has done all this, but plants have adapted to our artificial stimuli or to imposing certain things in them. They support. Plants do support very well because it's the only organism which is totipotent in every part. It has some meristematic tissue in every part, or it regenerates that meristematic tissue from one cell. That's the totipotency of plants. That phenomenon is rare with all other organisms. Therefore, once you understood it, we are creating new things. We are making different permutation combination of plants. We could produce 40 types of varieties of mangoes in one plant, or we have combined many things. But at the same time, we also literally failed when you try to combine potato and tomato, when you try to combine radish and cabbage. We failed when you try to also induce nodules, root nodules in rice and wheat. We failed. Why? Because at the end, I will say the same phenomenon. Plants very beautifully say, you are you, I am I. I am not meant to live up to your expectations. If you appreciate the way I am functioning, I am living, that will be beautiful. Don't try to judge more, experiment more. Yes, I am adapting. I am giving you some support. That doesn't mean that you can play with me at any time, any way, any combinations. That doesn't happen. Therefore, we failed. In both Raphana brassica we failed, in Pomato we failed, and in root nodules also we failed. One particular phenomenon that has attracted me very much in my entire 37 years of career of teaching botany, biology, and all other branches of plant biotechnology is photoperiodism and flowering in plants. This phenomenon has always led me to find out where plants' memory lies. When I look at all other animals, the higher animals, we find that there is a memory. They remember and they go back. And it is well understood when the cranes, they migrate from Siberia to the desert Thor land or to some of the water bodies in India. Thousands, means 10,000 kilometers they fly, come back for one season and then go back in the next season. The memory. We know that most of the birds we used, because of the memory, they go to the particular person, come back. But where the plants remember that I have undergone these many cycles of daytime, these many hours, these many cycles of night time, these many hours, and once I am filled or I understand that I have completed this, it is like exactly when we say the child, please count 1 to 10. This is unfortunate, we say 1 to 10, we forgot to 0 to say it should be 0 to 10. But still, the child tries, and when it jumps or overlaps or makes mistake, we say go back and again start. But here, how is it possible that years after years or for a small season, 2 months plant, where these cycles are remembered, in what form? We save that phytochrome. Is it not degradable? Is it been stored in such a way that it can only, like a biological clock, will open at a particular time? We have no sense to understand it other than just giving that clue. So photoperiodism, flowering and vernalization has a lot of story to unfold, because then we have only forcefully changed certain these phenomena to suit us, and we are able to produce the vegetables throughout the year which were basically meant for a season. We are artificially converting. At the same time, we find also some of the drawbacks in that. The taste, we don't get what vegetables we get in summer season, which is supposed to be in winter season. That natural effect we don't get. We are not able to simulate exact things of nature. Still we are trying. Okay, my next slide, because time is set. Here, one more beautiful things which I have still not opened. I was talking all about the higher plants, the flowering plants, but the world is more beautiful, though it doesn't come to our notice very often. That is the lower plants. Whether it is an algal group, whether it is fungal group, whether it is a combination of algae and fungi, the lichen group, whether the bryophytes, whether the pteridophytes, and whether the gymnosperms. This evolutionary effect in the plants has to be studied from genetical point of view. What variation in the genes, what modifications in the genes, what randomizations in the genes, and in which period of time this has taken place. Like we go back to the carbon dating of our fossils. This evolutionary effect and the phenomenal effect, why it has remained from Erixia till, okay, up to mosses. What made the last part of Erixia or the previous part of Erixia to be changed? Of course, we know evolution has not occurred or mutation has not occurred all over the earth at a time in every place. Otherwise, today we should have only the angiosperms all over. That's not the phenomenon. We should have all the human beings only on the earth. Evolution has not come in like that way. And these mutations have occurred spontaneously, point mutations at some places. It's not at every place. Therefore, we see today the microorganisms. Today we also observe viruses. Today also we observe all other animals. But the beauty of this, that algae and fungi are two different worlds. One is totally dependent on other objects, food sources, and one acts as independent. Even if the color combination of algae or the pigments in algae are different. And suddenly, these two groups of organisms, one is totally heterotrophic, one is autotrophic, come together to form a new. We have imagined that our previous ancestors have all imaginations of different creations, different creatures. That combination is possible, symbiotic association is possible, and it can go together. Perhaps that was the way how our new transplantation phenomenon have come. That yes, one can adapt to the new phenomenon and it can remain within that. We have also developed so many things in our animal systems. But look at the lichens, a beautiful combination. Now how has it been communicated? Is it just random, that collision, that one spore of alga and one spore of fungus come together and they immediately meet and they develop their association, they communicate to each other, one covers the another, one becomes the fruiting part, one becomes the photosynthetic part and food making part, but finally they give a shape and they adapt to the situation, they still grow on a substance where nothing can grow, and they can make that soil possible from the rocks, what not, what a beautiful phenomenon. And at the same time, look at mosses, look at the bryophytes, trying to go from the aquatic environment to the land habits. Of course, fungus has already gone, algae still, except few algae which are parasites on the higher plants. Otherwise, Most of the fungi, they have come to the land habits. Bryophytes, amphibians in nature. But from bryophytes, when fungi has been adapted to algae, it became totally terrestrial. And beautiful we see the world. Then comes the ferns, the pteridophytes. Again within the pteridophytes, very beautiful. Previously, we were all observing the spore-producing organs, and in pteridophytes, the spore-producing organs have new phenomena, new way of organizing the things. And in pteridophyte, if you look at the leaf, the sarcinate vernation is the beauty, what I was talking about, the structural beauty of the plants to be understood. How it is calculatively kept the things and unfold it slowly. It is exactly like the memory. But okay, in computer we are doing it in a different way. But here, what force makes it to unfold? Many times we understand that imbibition is the process, or the the parenchyma is the process to help, or it is the absorption of more water in the process. But how it delinks, how it is tying it in the inside structure, whether the arrangements are already known to the plants before, how is the memory? How is it growing? Slowly developing into particular things. That means memory is nothing as we understand as a human being, that there is a memory part which is kept inside the brain, inside the head, and covered, protected. Its cells are memorizing things. Practically every cell has a memory. Not only the living parts, living cells, even the non-living objects have also memory. If you fold a paper first time, you will see that it returns to its normalcy again. If you leave your hand, it has a memory. It is not only from that, probably we took the silicon as the object or the material for which the memory will be more beautiful. I have kept it here in front of you to summarize the future interest in plant science research with few photographs. One photograph I said, which is below the earth, not visible to us, very little is understood, but by two different conditions of the same plant, you find the difference in it. You find the growth difference. You find the adaptability different. If all things are genetic mediated, then how does it happen? How is it adjusting to itself? If one is from Mendel's law, if you understand the tall and the dwarf, there are two things we understand. Like computer understands 0 and 1. It doesn't understand any other things, but it makes everything possible. Here, what exactly in our genetics has to be understood. Now, what more science has come in front of us is the correlative microscopy. The new things have developed is to make non-invasive scanning, non-invasive understanding. We should not go into it, but externally we must scan or make images possible. Technology is developing. So we have to make ourselves acquainted with such developments. There are sensors developed. Now how we can use those sensors to understand plant science, the charms of plant science and the future research to come to a new conclusions. Now the second photograph is showing that how with time, with situation, the plant itself withdraws, changes. For example, if you look at the blue one in the photograph, when the wind is blowing from one direction to another direction, the plant changes its structure in such a way that it tolerates. If you look at the leaves, which is a broad leaf, it becomes conical, makes the petiole more large. And if it is a multiple leaflet leaf, it comes to a cone-like shape at the end. When such outside environmental effect comes on it. What is required is we need now the plug and play portable laboratory techniques. We need computational advances, data management, natural language processing, artificial intelligence, and digital biosphere for our future research in plant sciences. I look forward in the coming decade, which has been made by the Decadal Plant Summit in 2019, that the plant science vision of 20 to 30 would make a difference. Not only just with advanced technologies to understand plant science better, but also to make this earth again habitual to all living creatures, all the non-living parts, and also it will make the sustainable development, the ecosystem balancing, and re-understanding the morphology of plants through molecular biology, to understand the mathematical calculations behind the unfolding of all the plant actions, structures, and functions. We have to improve our agricultural outcome. We have to improve our productivity, but without affecting things. We are regularly now facing, now the world is changing in its environmental effects. It was not previously, as I said, that the 6 seasons are no more felt. We are unnaturally getting heavy rainfalls concentrated at one parts. Sometimes we are getting frequent cyclones and tsunamis. Now these are the pressures over the plants now, which are growing near to seabeds. These are the plants which are growing or which do not require heavy rainfalls in the crop fields. We need all this to be again readapted. As I said, the genes for adaptation has not yet been well understood for all plants. We have to find out what are the polymorphic characteristics, what reveals from genotype to phenotype, how many morphological traits have polygenic basis of understanding, basis of understanding, as I said. But ultimately morphology reveals itself over the lifetime about cell science, about physiology, about genetics, growth, and giving things to the rest of the community, rest of the world creatures, and to the environment. Plants are always there. We feel to look at the newer researchers to go ahead with these thirds, with these understandings as I opened in front of you on this occasion. I thank all the organizers, participants, and my colleague Dr. Nivedita, Professor Nivedita Gayal for proposing all these things as well as to share my slides. Thank you very much. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkhava bhavet. Om shanti, shanti, shanti. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your excellent presentation and philosophical thoughts regarding plant science research. After attending the webinar, I think researchers get some valuable and new ideas for plant science research. We have not to do research only on DNA, genetics, genetic engineering, and only on lab-based topics. But for beginners, nature itself is mystery and need to unravel it. You will, researcher, you will get a good research topic in the nature itself and observe it very keenly and do research for you and for the society also. Be a good researcher and do it till the end of life. Now I would like to request Professor Ghayal Nivedita A. Madam to run the discussion and question answer session. Madam, it's over
Yeah.
to you.
In the beginning, I would like to thank Dr. Devendranath Mishra for conducting a very good lecture, very good session on today's evening. And now the session is open for question answer. If anybody is interested to ask the questions to sir, you are please welcome. You can ask questions. Anybody?
No question in chat box also.
Okay, no problem.
I
Actually-
feel whatever way I have explained, probably it has not created doubts in their minds about the future plans.
Not exactly, actually. Sir has given many ideas and many things to be dug in the plant sciences. What we think always that we know many things by understanding biotechnology, genetics, and molecular biology. But Sir has nicely presented what you can do in basic sciences which are related to plants with very basic research work type also. So I would like to thank once again Dr. Mishra for nice presentation, and now I request Dr. Ghosh to conclude the session. Please, madam.
Thank you, madam. Now I would like to request Dr. Debabrata Das to announce our upcoming programs.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Nice program, today's program delivered by Professor Dr. Mishra ji. Thanks again, sir. We have another program on 23rd October 2021 under another series, that is Environment and Development. As you hold, that is NDEV series 2, number 6. Professor Mamata Gokhale, the Assistant Professor of Botany and Microbiology, St. Aloysius College, Autonomous, Jabalpur, will deliver the lecture. The topic is Conservation of Environmental Component, Biotechnological Approach. Manavij Coordinator, Biodesign Innovation Center, SAC project funded by MHRD, New Delhi. That's enough. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Das. And then I would like to request Professor Vidanath Jha sir to run the valedictory session. Sir, over to you.
So thank you. It's again my pious duty to thank the speaker and the organizers as well, and the audience also. So it was a very nice presentation by Professor Mishra ji, and various phenomena that occur in the plant world, how a curious worker, he takes clues, he derives clues from the various phenomena that are there in the plants, referring to their color, and then he has cited the examples of touch me not plant, and then the mangroves, and then the plants, varieties of mangoes that are there on the same plant. So flower, various biological rhythms, why a plant flowers during night, why a plant flowers during daytime. So these are the various curiosities that attract a person, a new student of botany, and he tries to find the answers in his laboratory. So we have seen in a very lucid style, and citing the examples of philosophy which we practice in our day-to-day life. So he has dealt at length from an academic viewpoint, going into the realm of botany, and then taking evidences from our ancient scriptures. So in a very lucid style, he has at length, going deep into the knowledge, the extraordinary knowledge that he has. He had tried to make his point, and we once again thank him for the stride that he has made. And again, the phase with which we are passing, through which we are passing, the phase of COVID. COVID brought a number of bad things to the society, to our world, but some good things that came out during this COVID is the system of webinar. We see sitting here in Darbhanga, I am listening a person in Maharashtra and West Bengal. So the world has become a very small village, and that is very much depicted here, that is very much apparent here. So once again, your strive is getting more popular. I think it is touching now the hundred I think number in the audience. So this is an evidence how the stride that you have made, you people have made, Dr. Ghosh and Dr. Das, it is getting popular. The number of audience is increasing day by day. So I think we are doing a great service to the academic circle as a whole and to botany, our plant science in particular. So let me once again thank our learned scholar, Dr. Mishra, for his very, very lucid talk in the field of botany, how people get attracted towards the various natural phenomena, and then we again try to find the answer why these phenomena occur. So thank you once again, sir, to the learned speaker as well as to the organizers. So thank you once again.
Thank you.
Ghosh madam, can I request you to provide me the recording part of my speech?
Yes, sir. After finish the program, this program, I will give you. In
Yes,
your WhatsApp,
please.
sir, give to YouTube link.
Yes, whatever it is. Wherever
Okay.
it is, you just send me that. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank
So,
Thank
you.
you, Jha sir, and thank you so much.
Professor Mishra ji, Professor Jhaji, and Professor Nivedita madam. So thanks to
Thank you all once again.
Yes, madam. So really, we are thankful to all of you and all the participants and so many professors are present here and make this program a grand success. Actually, we want to go ahead with all of you and need your suggestion, your idea to do a grand success to
Yeah,
Ramda.
sure.
Thank you. So thanks all of you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Shubhamastu.
you. Good night.
Thank you very much. Shubhamastu.
Thank you, Mr. Sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sir.
Yes,
Devbrata
thank you,
sir.
Devabrat.
Very nice, very lucidly presented information here.
Yeah, that's nice.
Good night.
Good
Good
night.
night to all of
everybody.
you.
Sir,
Yes, Devabrat, you want to say something?
sir, now you can leave the room.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm leaving.
Yeah.
Ah,
Okay. Thank
we
you.
will communicate through WhatsApp and through mail. Okay, sir?
Huh.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Mm.